We are live.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration meeting to order. I would ask that you rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. We acknowledge the rich history of this land, which includes the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Today, there are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who live or work in the city. The intent of this acknowledgement is to recognize our responsibility to use and take care of these lands responsibly and respectfully, while remembering the generations past and considering the generations yet to come. We respect and seek to continue and promote the longstanding relationships with this area's First Nations, the Six Nations of the Grand River First Nation, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Indigenous peoples who reside within the city of Brantford. Let us also not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us, so we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Please be seated. Clerk, has the roll been taken?
Through the chair, the roll has been taken.
Members of committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest for any items appearing on tonight's agenda? Seeing none. Oh, sorry. Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, item 7.1.10. Nathan and Karen and Tonowitz are friends of mine.
Okay, so noted. Okay, seeing no other conflicts, members of committee, are there any items for consideration or consent that you would like separated for discussion purposes? The following items will automatically be separated. Item 7.1.1 as there's an amendment, and 7.1.3 as we have a delegation. Mayor Davis.
Got your pencil ready?
Yes.
7.1.5, the tariff working group. 7.1.10, front end loading, MOU. 7.1.11, municipal code update. 7.2.2 HR metrics. 7.2.4 healthy kids.
Okay. Anyone have Councillor Sokoli, anything that's not already separated?
I don't think anyone has separated 7.1.8, the intimate partner and gender-based violence community action plan.
Okay. Anything else? Going once, going twice, okay. Councillor Sullivan, can you please move the motion to approve all items for consideration and consent, 7.1, 7.2, not separated for discussion purposes, and state your seconder.
Absolutely. So moved. My seconder is Councillor Sokoli.
Can you please read the title of the items that are subject to the vote?
Sure. Through the chair, the items subject to the vote are 7.12, 2025-2027 Museum funding agreement with Glenhurst Art Gallery of Brand. 7.14, recommendations for public art in Alexander Park. 7.16, draft Brantford 2050 city vision. 7.17, One Brantford inclusive city strategy. 7.19, funding request for Quasica upgrade and migration. 7.12, customer relation management software update and implementation partner proposal. 7.13, Brantford Accessibility Advisory Committee report. 7.21, follow-up to report number 2024-274, consultation to expand the definition of a personal service setting for municipal licensing purposes. 7.23, 2024 year-end report on building permit fees. 725, 2024 Development Charges Reserve Fund Continuity Report, and Treasurer's 2024 Statement for Cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve Fund, and item 726, minutes. Items not separated for discussion purposes carried on a recorded vote of 9-1. Councilors in favor are Councilors Venkelberg, Samuel, Hunt, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Siboli, and Mayor Davis. Those against, Councilor Carpenter.
Okay, we have no statutory public hearings. We have one delegation on tonight's agenda. Before the delegation, I would like to remind those in the meeting today that the following rules of decorum as set forth in the city's procedural bylaw apply. No person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting room other than materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audiovisual aids necessary in connection with any presentation made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gestures that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only on the subject in debate and shall not speak on any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in the conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. So I will now ask Daniel from Ninco Developments to come forward and speak to item 7.1.3. You have 10 minutes to present, inclusive of questions. Daniel is joining us virtually. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, good evening. Yes, my name is Daniel Bragagnolo, and I'm here on behalf of our development team. After more than 4 years of planning, engagement, and perseverance, we're proud to share that construction has become underway on our project. The development will consist of over 300 units of much needed rental units in the community, including 56 of those projected to be under and below market rents. A commitment we've made because we understand how critical accessible housing is in today's market. But projects like this don't happen in isolation. They rely on the collaboration between developers, municipalities, and all levels of government. That's why the Greyfield program is so valuable in supporting projects like ours, especially during what CMHC has dubbed the riskiest part of these rental projects, being the first 7 to 10 years of operations. It really enables us to offer that meaningful affordability in a way that sends a strong signal that kind of the city of Brantford is serious about playing a part kind of in the housing solution. We're not just building the housing, but we want to build community, and we're investing in the long-term growth and sustainability of it. We appreciate and all the hard work that staff has put into this application. I know it wasn't very straightforward, but we definitely echo their support of approving the program for our project.
Sorry, Daniel, was that your presentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was it.
Okay, thank you. So we do have time for questions. Councillor Carpenter, go ahead.
There was a grant for cleaning up the ground in that area. Was your organization involved with that?
There was as well. Yeah, that's currently underway. We had the previous approval, and we're just going through the process of submitting all of the bills as well right now.
And how much was that for? Do you recall?
The grant was officially approved for about just over $7 million, but it looks like we've come well under that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Daniel, thank you. I don't see any other questions from me. We will be dealing with this matter shortly.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have no presentations on tonight's agenda. We'll now move to the items separated for discussion. Councillor Caputo, please read the motion to place all separated items for consent consideration not previously voted on the floor, and state your seconder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Secoli, that all items for consideration, consent items 7172, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Okay, so we will now take up the separated items, beginning with item 7.1.3, as there was a delegation, followed by the rest of the items as they appear on the agenda. So 7.1.3. Any discussion? Councillor Carpenter.
Just the staff, will the tax payments more than be offset by the tax paid on the new property as it's developed? Do we have any idea what the numbers will be?
Through you to Councillor Carpenter, I'll just defer this question because it's a tax question to our manager of tax revenue, Ryan.
Well, yeah, the taxes will increase annually, more than what we'll be paying with the grant.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know. Appreciate that. It's a net gain for us. So yeah, that's why this is a good program.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you to staff, what makes this site a gray field?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, we define a grayfield site as an underutilized site that had commercial purposes, and in this case, some minor industrial. But mostly it's a site that has the potential to be better utilized for a mix of commercial and residential. That's what a grayfield
What
site
was the
is.
previous commercial operation there?
This site is actually a combination of properties, and on those properties, there was a mixture of like a service garage, a former ice rink, and some minor usage as a former landfill, like a small site landfill. But the service garage is the most recent commercial use.
Okay, and the one building's getting a higher grant because it has affordable housing. What is the term for the affordable housing? Is it a 20-year deal or longer, or what is it?
Correct. Per the city's municipal facilities agreement, it is for a minimum of 20 years.
Minimum of 20. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. This is you're seeing in front of you the results, the positive results of an action that was taken, initiative by the prior council. It goes back to 2021. At that time, we were looking at properties, gray fields, which most people in our community would know, and the bylaw says areas along Market Street South, Colburn Street East, some of Colburn Street West, a lot of it's on Charing Cross, on West Street. So these are areas of the city that, in older areas of the city, which in 2021 certainly were not developing, and there really wasn't much incentive to develop a whole series of really underutilized properties. And so the idea behind this policy and this bylaw is if you build in those areas, then you don't actually pay the full set of property taxes on your new property until after about 10, 12 years. And it happens on a gradual basis. The first year you pay 10%, and next year 20%, so on. And this is I'm really pleased to see this. This is as I said, this is an outcome of that policy, which was designed to encourage the redevelopment of underutilized properties. But more importantly, the focus of the policy is on rental buildings, multi-unit residential buildings, and a portion of which is affordable. It's an even higher tax credit. So I'm very pleased to see that that work of the prior council is now paying dividends for us. And we're seeing a development that is proceeding. I'm talking to staff and they're moving along quite quickly with the developer with their site plan control. And this in an era of, slightly economic downturn. So it's great to see this development proceeding. 316 units, rental units in total. And frankly, without this policy and this graduated tax rebate program, I'm pretty confident we wouldn't be seeing this development and we would not be seeing 316 units. We wouldn't be seeing the economic impact of the construction of these two significant buildings. And after 8-9 years, the city will be better off by about $1 million a year. So it's your classic cliche, win, win, win.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you, and through you to staff. Staff, are you aware of any environmental conditions on this property that are the subject of Ministry of Environment concerns that may be getting in the way of rapid completion?
Through the chair to Councillor McCreary, yes, this site was known to be a site that required remediation under the Ministry of Environment's regulation. So the applicant has undertaken that remediation work. They're going through the process of getting a record of site condition. We're just waiting to get that record of site condition fully acknowledged. I'm not able to speak to the exact timelines. I do know that, as the applicant said, they're working through submitting some invoices to me so I can verify their remediation expenses. And they have confirmed to me that they have submitted the paperwork to get the ministry to acknowledge the record of site condition. It's hard to say, and I'm not aware of what timelines they're under right now.
Okay, seeing no other speakers, we will take the vote.
Item 713 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventilber, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, going back up to the top of the list, 7.1.1. Councillor McCreary, I believe you have an amendment.
You are correct. Do you want it now or do you want people to speak first?
I'm looking at the original. I think your amendment is ready now. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to be sure that I'm the mover. Councillor Martin is the seconder. The amendment reads as follows: the clause B be amended to read as follows: the staff be directed to explore alternative options to preserve the statue at the Brantford Area Sports Hall of Fame. And I'll speak to it very briefly, Madam Chair. We've had a very generous offer from a member of the community to fund the necessary repairs. So I'll be engaging staff to get together with that individual to explore the options available to us. The amendment does not cite a time frame because we're not sure how long the discussions may take, but it looks to be very favorable, and I think it would be in our best interest if we could preserve the artwork. It is enjoyed by everybody under the age of 15 that comes in that building. They like to pose with it, and that's part of the problem, that sometimes they like to sit on the artwork's lap. So I would hope everybody can support this without reservation and let us proceed with trying to save this for the benefit of people that come into the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center.
Councillor Sicoli.
I'm now glad that Councillor McCurry went first. So I'm definitely going to be supporting the amendment, and I'm filled with gratitude for this mysterious donor in the community who's going to help us fix this statue. And I did receive an email the first time that we talked about this from a resident in the community, Barbara. And Barbara worked at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center for 4 years, and she pointed out to me and flagged for me that this isn't just a statue of a hockey player lacing up their skates. It's a statue of a little girl hockey player lacing up her skates. And I hadn't really noticed it until I started really zooming in there. And I think it's really important that we preserve this statue even more so. If only because we can't really underestimate the value of having a female image promoting inclusion in a predominantly male dominated sport. So Barbara, thank you for flagging that to me. And I'm really glad that we're going to have someone local and in the community looking at making these repairs. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Councillor Samwell.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Imagine walking into the Gretzky Center for the first time and seeing yourself reflected there by a welcoming statue of a little girl ready to play hockey. The impact that has. It says sports are for everyone and you belong here. And I'm so glad that we got to hear tonight. I was going to say it's worth saving, but I think that I'm really glad to hear that it sounds like it's going to be saved. So thank you for that.
Not seeing any other speakers in the queue, we will take the vote on the amendment.
The vote on the amendment carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelboer, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Now on the main motion as amended.
Item 711 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelboer, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, moving along, 7.1.5. Mayor Davis, you asked for this to be separated.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I might need 2 speaking opportunities on this one, but let's start. First of all, I want to say that our municipal staff are top notch because not only are they reacting to situations, but in many cases are proactive. We've seen that on nitrates and Selby's team with the reverse osmosis units that are in right now that are being done on a pilot basis, but also when it comes to the impact of tariffs and the trade situation in our community, our staff were already anticipating that this was going to potentially be a problem for our community back in Christmas time. And at that time, they saw there was an opportunity for a federal grant called the Foreign Direct Investment Strategy Grant money. They applied proactively for it, and we were successful in learning several weeks ago that the city's been received a $30,000 grant. We have to match it, and it's in the resolution. And what can you use these monies for? You can use it to conduct research on new target markets, and I'm talking about potential target markets overseas. You can use it to develop new marketing material where you're intending to market your community to these new markets, either in Canada or overseas. And you can also fund overseas trade missions to your target markets. The money has to be spent by the end of March 2026. And staff, I noticed in the report and in the subparagraph B and C of the resolution, it's really not very specific on when we'll be receiving a report back on how these grant money should be allocated. It's kind of vague. It just says in 2025. Given that the money has to be allocated and spent by the end of March of less than a year from now, should this not be coming back to us of a specific defined date earlier in 2025? And I'd like to amend this resolution to include a report back date. And what is it you'd recommend? So just generally to start.
Through the chair, Joe Mito, Director of Economic Development. Thank you, Mayor, for those comments. Mr. Kevin DeCook is here this evening and he's got to take all the claim for this because he did fill out the form and got us the $30,500 with respect to this FDI strategy. We've not got all of the materials back from the federal government just yet, so that's why there is no specific time frame. We're going to be following up with them in the coming weeks to find out when we can get that other information so that we can provide a report back. But as part of the ongoing updates on tariffs, the working group has committed to a monthly update on status of the various items that we're working on collectively under the working group. So we will likely have a better response for the follow-up update tariff report next month.
Okay, because you through you, Madam Chair, you know what the parameters are, how the money has to be spent. So can we look forward to a more detailed report next month as to what the suggested plan is for how these monies should be allocated?
Through the chair to Mayor Davis, yes, we can, Mayor.
Okay, well then, I guess my amendment's not required because I was looking at a specific date. But based on that, Madam Chair, I won't be putting forward an amendment for subparagraphs B and C. And I want to thank staff very much for doing that. Just wanted to also, not sure much time I got left, but 20 seconds. Okay, well, what am I going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to say that working with other mayors, there's a group led by the mayor, Cisco's the mayor of St. Catharines. It's a Great Lakes Mayor's Trade Group, and the group is doing a reach out to the mayors in the northeastern U.S. They've already had several meetings, and I've asked Mayor Cisco if he would be okay if I can participate in that. So I will be participating in that mayor's lobby caucus group. Hope to be included in one of the reports coming up, the monthly reports, and put me down for the second speaking opportunity.
Okay, so you were over, but are you, there's no one else in the queue?
Yep, I'll just carry on. Unless I think.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't see I'm getting flags for everybody. Councillor Carpenter and then.
I'll be brief. I just want to highlight, notice that on page 9 of the report, that's a local company that both Mayor and I toured with economic staff and the chamber as a local company making these goods in our community in Ward 4, doing a terrific job and great support from us, from them. And every industrial company that we visited said there are ways to make this work for the actual company. Although this company does a lot of work with the United States, there are other opportunities across the country to make that work as well. And so this is a 40-year-old company, I believe. Family company does a terrific job in the community. So this is going to go a long way supporting them as well. Thank you.
Mayor Davis, your second.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the Ontario Big City Mayor's Caucus. It met this past Friday, last Thursday evening and Friday. And the Premier addressed the group early in the afternoon on Friday. And he gave a very positive message about the trade situation, what his government is doing. One of the things that he did say is that it's not just markets overseas, but his government is already seeing his staff that there are potential developing opportunities that to actually sell product, build product and sell product here in Canada. Products that in the past have been produced in the US, and with the countervailing tariffs now making it more economic to produce them here in Canada. And one of the things he urged was that municipalities and economic development departments consider that. So I'd ask staff when looking at reviewing and using out the foreign direct investment strategy money, let's consider that as well. And he said that's essentially encouraging companies that are in your community to look at those markets if they aren't already doing that. He also said that it's critical to begin fast tracking industrial development and infrastructure projects. And incidentally, we have later this evening, the MOU we're talking about in terms of front end loading agreements, a critical part of that strategy. So it's great that we're seeing both tonight. The other thing the OBCM did was they passed a resolution brought forward by the Mayor of Hamilton. And what it says is that, in times of economic uncertainty, provincial governments and federal governments have historically stepped up with stimulus money for municipalities to support large infrastructure projects. And the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus passed a resolution encouraging the provincial government to do that, to allocate additional resources towards provincial grants to stimulus infrastructure projects, for example, building schools, building sewers, building roads. And actually the resolution does contain within it some examples of projects that the provincial government should consider city by city. And I'm pleased to tell you that it includes some specific projects in the city of Brantford, is included in the resolution. One is the Brantford Wastewater Effluent Pumping Station. And that is something that is required in our wastewater treatment system to improve its efficiencies and make it more robust and protected from future flooding events. It's a major infrastructure project. It's not sexy, but it's critical to maintaining an excellent municipal infrastructure. Also mentioned, and you'd like this, Councillor Samwell, the Brantford Downtown Infrastructure Renewal Project. We've included that as a very important infrastructure project that we certainly like the province to help out with us. And also Brantford Sports and Entertainment Center as a project that certainly acts as a major economic stimulus for our community. So, and then for the other 27 municipalities with various projects. So we're optimistic, given what the Premier said, that likely, as we see in recessionary times, the provincial government rolling out additional stimulus money for important infrastructure projects. We keep our fingers crossed, but just want to let you know that the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus is already working on advocating and lobbying for that. So with that, I think that concludes my remarks. Other than to say that very pleased with the work that staff are doing and continue to do. Very proud. I think we're in many ways further ahead on that initiative pathway than many other communities because of the early start we got with staff being so proactive. So congratulations to them and keep up the good work.
Seeing no other speakers, we will take the vote.
Item 715 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Venkelberg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Next, we have 7.1.8. Councillor Sicoli, you asked for this to be separated.
I did, thank you. This is an update to our intimate partner and gender-based violence community action plan. And I know that staff have been working really hard in the background. I believe it was last year, might have been the year before, but Brantford joined a growing list of municipalities who were declaring intimate partner and gender-based violence an epidemic and aligning with some national advocacy groups. So we did a lot of research behind the scenes, and there were 25 plus organizations that helped shape this plan. But we did determine that despite very generous investments from the federal and provincial government totaling about 1.5 billion for Ontario, there's still a $2 million funding shortfall locally for us as we move forward. So we're coming together as a community. We're trying to find efficiencies amongst our groups. So we're moving forward towards some online learning courses for intimate partner violence and prevention thereof. We're continuing on our alignment with provincial and federal strategies that calls for criminal code changes. And I know that Nova Vita is really taking the lead on some really interesting concept plans. The Safe at Home program is something that we're working hard on right now. I know Councillor Samwell has had a hand in discussing that as well. So I'm not sure if there's anyone from staff here that can answer some questions, but I do have some questions. And the first question that I do have is pertaining to the groups of individuals that were consulting throughout this process. And I'm curious, are we reaching out and taking in the voices of survivors and their thoughts in this process?
So through the chair, Aaron Walls, Director of Strategic Initiatives, I think the answer is absolutely yes. We know that those service providers do have a lot of input and perspective from those individuals that have been through those processes. So as we put these plans together and we talk about community training and learning, those perspectives are certainly being a part of this conversation.
Thank you. And can you give us an idea of, so this is suggesting that we continue with the action plan, that we've got some good traction and we want to continue forward. Can you give us some indicators on how we'll be measuring the success of this action plan?
So through the chair, the premier outcome we'd be looking for here is to see that increased community investment. So as committee mentioned, there's about a $2 million deficit in what the community needs. We know there's money happening within the upper levels of government. So what we'd like to see is as much of that money as possible come to Brantford and Brant to kind of offset that deficit. We'd also be looking at project-specific metrics. Committee mentioned the partnership with Western University around training. So we're working with them to track how many folks or individuals take that training. We'll try to do some evaluation on that to make sure that training leads to some learning and behavior change. We do have a grant from Public Safety Canada where we're using kind of some youth-focused initiatives as well. So we have an evaluation framework we're working with Laurier University on as well. So project by project, we'll have some evaluation in terms of behavioral change and learning change. And then overall, we'd like to see that $2 million deficit come down through what we anticipate are some call for proposals and other opportunities for local organizations to get money.
So you've sort of touched on my next and final question, and it's really pertaining to the $2 million shortfall. It's the second year that we've been hearing that figure tossed around. Are there any plans to secure any type of long-term funding to help us close that gap moving forward? Are there any grants that we've applied to that have come to fruition or that we could be applying to?
So through the chair, we always have our eyes open for grants. We know that often it's the community partner doing the work that has the better chance of getting that grant. So often we're behind the scenes with that or letters of support. Ideally, there'd be ongoing annualized operational funding to these groups. But we don't have any indication of that is the case yet. It does look like a call for proposal process now. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're going to position the city as advocates and supporters of that. But any grant that's out there that may generally apply to this, we're certainly going to make sure the partners are aware if they're not already. If there's anything we can do to support, we'll get behind that with them.
This satisfies my questions. Thank you.
Councillor Samuel.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to thank staff for their work on this report and for continuing to center the voices of those most impacted. Attending the Community Partner Forum reinforced just how urgent and necessary this work is. We're not there yet, but together we are working towards a future where everyone in Brantford can be safe at home. Including intimate partner violence and gender-based violence in our community and safety and well-being plan is a clear statement that it isn't just a crisis, but it's a call to action. And our community deserves more than just awareness. It deserves safety, support, and lasting change. And just to what Councillor Sokoli said, I actually had the opportunity to attend the Safe at Home. We all came together to discuss what the community Safe at Home could look like. And I'm glad to see that we're working towards having a Safe at Home program for Brantford and Brant. So thank you.
Seeing no other speakers in the queue, we'll take the vote.
Item 718 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelber, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Next, we have 7.1.10. Mayor Davis, you asked for this to be separate.
Yeah, so this is the front end loading resolution. And it sounds pretty dry, pretty technical. It is. But of all the resolutions we're voting on tonight, this one potentially has the greatest impact on our city and its future. And it's kind of combined with what I was talking about previously, which is the economic situation, the tariff trade situation. And one of the messages we got from Premier Ford was accelerating, if you can, development and building in your community. And this relates to the boundary lands, the lands north of Powerline Road that were brought in from the county of Brant 7-8 years ago. And the infrastructure needs, the roads, the sewers, the water system, it's very extensive throughout the north and boundary lands, potentially costing well over $1 billion over 30 years. And it's a very technical process where it really calls upon city staff and pushes them to the limit because they're having to design really complicated infrastructure that really in this city we haven't really done since the Shellard Lane was first developed 30 years ago. It also puts a tremendous financial strain on the community and the city, funding that, financing that, and you're doing that before you actually have the development, before you actually have the properties that pay property taxes and pay development charges. So one way to get around that, since we have some very sophisticated property owners and developers who own those lands in the boundary area, calling and using the expertise and the financial resources of those landowners. And what it is essentially is if they help finance the infrastructure that services their lands and others, and they help build it, they help design it, they gain credits. And those credits, they then kind of cash in when the development charges are to be paid when they're actually getting building permits for the homes and businesses that they build. And so this sets up a template, a contract template that can be used now with interested developers, and there are many that are interested in doing this. The end result is we will see the boundary lands being developed faster, more efficiently, because you're calling upon the expertise of these developers, which have done it many times. It's less of a burden on your municipal staff, and it actually encourages the builders to build quickly because they put up a large sum of money to build pipes and roads. They don't actually collect on that until they actually start building homes, because that's when they get the development charges credit. So it's worked very successfully in other municipalities. We've never really done it here in Brantford. So this is the first for us, and I think it sets the stage for the accelerated development of our boundary lands in a way that's really more financially feasible and affordable for our community and puts less of a load on our already overreached, overstressed municipal staff. So I commend staff for doing this. It kind of comes out of the red tape committee that the previous council set up, and I'm glad to see it. And I think that this is going to be a real benefit to this community over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So please vote for it.
Councillor Carpenter.
Just a quick question to staff on the development charge that pays back the funding. If the development charges change over time, they still pay for that particular rate. They don't get a reduced rate in guaranteed going forward. They pay whatever the development charges are at the current time of building.
Through the chair, Councillor Carpenter. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, yeah, and some of these projects are like Powerline Road, local water main, East-West Collector Road, Brentwood Park Road trunk water main. A lot of infrastructure projects. It's not the first time we've done this. We've done this before. But this is a front end loading is something we're used to. It doesn't really cost the taxpayer anything. In fact, it saves us money because the development happens up front and it gets the project going. As the mayor said, it's a good for the city of Brantford and good for everyone. It's a win. Again, to use the mayor's word, it's a win-win-win. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other speakers in the queue, we will take the vote. Oh, sorry, Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry about the lateness. I'm going to be supporting this in a large way, so you don't need to say please like you did, Mayor Davis. A lot of things have happened over the last little while to this country, probably the world for that matter. But some positives that have come out of it due to reactionary methods have been our ability as a country to start looking at open trade amongst ourselves in our own country. The crackdown at the border, the addressing of fentanyl, and the fact that our country has decided that they want to be a part of growth, development, and innovation. So doing something like this is only going to speed processes and get everybody on board doing what we need to do. And as Mayor Davis said, it's going to be a huge win for us in Brantford because it's going to get an area done quick and at the same time, great for the city in terms of what we can deliver afterwards. So that's all I had to say.
Seeing no other speakers in the queue, we will call the vote.
Item 7-110 carries on a recorded vote of 9-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventilberg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Next on the agenda, we have 7.1.11, Mayor Davis. This is also yours.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't often get an opportunity, nor does our city clerk get an opportunity to actually make a presentation that is other than him commenting about procedural things and whatnot. But under his direction, his leadership, the city clerk's office has reviewed our municipal code and the clerk's department policies, and they've coming forward a series of recommendations and amendments to our procedural bylaw to make ourselves more efficient. So I'm wondering if I might be able to give the clerk an opportunity to summarize in his own words what it is that's being proposed.
Through the chair, Chris Goche, City Clerk Director of Clerk Services. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mayor Davis. I'll go over the overview. So we're proposing a few policy amendments, municipal code updates, as well as a procedural bylaw update. So the first policy that we're proposing updates is the Council Policy 01, and that's the travel and expense policy. What we're ultimately trying to do is further align the council policy for travel expenses for per diems so that it aligns with the staff rates. So right now, I believe members of council are entitled to $70, and we're proposing increasing that so it's representative of the staff rate, which is $111. And so that's also in line with the CRA directive. We're also proposing repealing the civic news policy, which is corporate policy 13, as the clerk's department follows direction from the Planning Act as well as a procedural bylaw, and the communications department solely takes care of our Brantford Expositor ads. So staff are proposing to repeal that as it's no longer relevant to the clerk's department. We're also looking to make some changes to the chapter 116 and 118, which is the clerk and deputy clerk appointment bylaw. We're making some housekeeping changes, such as changing the administrative structure from the former PLSP to corporate services, as long as we're proposing that the clerk be given authority to make administrative changes to municipal bylaws, policies, resolutions, minutes, as it relates to clerical, typographical, renumbering of errors, as long as it doesn't change the legal intent of the document. In terms of the procedural bylaw, currently, if there's an item that comes before council and somebody comes to delegate to that item, if that item gets referred or deferred, we have in our procedural bylaw that that person cannot come back as a delegation. What we're proposing is to take away the prohibition for the referrals, given that anytime something is referred, it typically results in new information being presented. So we feel that it's necessary to be able to allow delegates to come speak to items that are referred. We're also proposing changes to the first, second, and third reading of bylaws. Before the Municipal Act was amended in 2001, The Municipal Act stated that municipalities had to pass bylaw first, second, and third reading. The first and second reading had to be done at a meeting, then the third reading at a subsequent meeting. When the new Municipal Act got amended in 2001, that was removed in the Municipal Act to streamline the decision approval process for bylaws. We're proposing that we remove first, second, and third reading, as what we're following right now in terms of our processes isn't in line with the original intent of the Municipal Act and isn't really in line with how other legislative assemblies pass bills or bylaws. We see it more as an added step that really adds no value to the decision-making process, and it's just really an extra vote. And besides that, those are pretty much, that's a high-level overview, but I'm here to answer questions. And thank you, Mayor Davis, for providing me the chance to give an overview.
Madam Chair, that was so comprehensive that it's answered all my questions.
Thank you. So you don't need to go in line for another one. Okay, sorry about Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. And Chris, so the per diem rate increase, that's additional funding as opposed to what's in the council's budgets already?
Through the chair, that would be already budgeted for.
So it's,
Yes.
so it's not like this extra money, if council members go away to AMO or FCM, that's just a building amount that's allowed come off your expenses that's already in. It's not additional money added to the council budget.
Through the chair,
Want to
that's
be clear for the public.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you, and thank you for that brief presentation, Clerk. Could you speak in more detail about the redundancy of second and third reading?
Sure, I can go into a bit more detail. So right now under a procedural bylaw, we're required to go through first, second, and third reading. In our procedural bylaw, during the first and second reading, we're prohibited from moving any amendments. Bylaws cannot be amended until the third reading. So given the nature that we're not allowed to make amendments during the first reading, the first and second reading isn't really debatable. I see it more as providing notice. And then the third reading is when you can go into making amendments, doing the debate. So I really don't see the first and second reading necessary. I could see where it came from in terms of the previous legislation and the intent, but our recommendation is if we're not following the intent and if we're not able to amend anything in the first or second reading, we shouldn't really have that vote. And when you really think about it, for example, during the airport board, they had a report to increase their hangar fees, right? First reading right there, the airport board report, then it goes to committee of the whole, second reading, then it goes to council. And all bylaws that get brought forward to council have to go through a committee of the whole. So council, unless it's a delegated authority bylaw, will be able to debate the reports and to have that fulsome discussion. And so for those reasons, that's why we're proposing those recommendations.
Council and the public have substantial opportunity to speak to everything that comes before us. Notice of motion, then COW, then council, then if it comes to bylaw, certainly the readings of bylaw. So demising the number of bylaw readings does not limit any sort of democratic input, right?
That's correct. And through the chair, prior to January 26, 2021, council and the public throughout those years never actually saw a bylaw on the agenda. Council were only provided the bylaw listing, but there was never an actual bylaw that was attached. And so the clerk's department in 2021 saw that, proposed a change. I would argue that bylaws are more transparent than ever because we're able to attach those to the agenda.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Good work.
Okay, seeing no other speakers, we will go to the vote.
Item 7111 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Ventilbor, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputa, Solomon, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, moving on to 7.2.2, Mayor Davis, this is yours as well.
Yeah, so 7.2.2, for members of the public, this is a report that we received from our Human Resources Department, and it's on, it's called a metrics report. And what metrics are, they're used by many corporations and organizations to track the internal performance of an organization. You take key performance indicators, like say it's resignations or it's retirements, or the use of benefits, and you are able, when you're doing this periodic, you can track what the trends are. And it's not just for data collection. What you do is it can highlight for you issues that you have within your organization. It's just a way of keeping track of the organization's performance. So we have before us a report. This is our first quarterly report in 2024, and it includes a number of statistics. And so they're not just there for the sake of statistics. They're there because it should lead, ideally, to you ask questions about why the number's gone up, why metrics gone down. And that helps you understand what's happening within your organization. So I do have some questions for staff in respect to the metrics we have in this report. And given that it is an HR type report, I can understand it. Maybe staff will say to me, well, to answer that question, we have to go in camera. I get that, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't ask questions anyway. So first question I have is the benefit spending. If you look at the report, the amount that we're spending on like medical and drug and anything other than dental went up 21% in 1 year. Does staff any indication for us as to why that is? Is there an issue that we need to address, or does that reflect the growth in the workforce or something else?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Davis. Anita Saloki, Director of Human Resources, through Chair Hunt to you. The benefit costs really reflect the trends in the benefit industry. Health and dental costs are increasing dramatically. The cost for drugs, the cost for paramedicals are really increasing. And so we work with our benefit consultant to try and maintain the costs as well as we can through our benefit carrier. But that is really reflective of the trends in the industry.
So then the second indicator is that we have, when it comes to grievances and workplace investigations, so workplace investigations have gone up from, I think it's 25 to 35 over the course of from 23 to 24, and grievances from 31 to 44. Now that's not unusual. Your investigations and your grievances, they'll go up and they'll go down depending on what's happening in the organization. And probably they don't mean that much unless you see it over a trend over, say, 2 or 3 years. But since we've only been doing this for about 18 months, we only have the data over 2 years. But the question for you, Anita, is given the increase, which may just simply be a reflection of other factors, is that a matter of concern, or is there a need to address some issue, or is it something else?
Through the chair to Mayor Davis. It's interesting that you raise that as a point. We have seen an increase in the investigations in Q1 even of 2025. So I believe we're at around 30 or 32 just for the first quarter even. So yes, there is a trend upwards for workplace investigations. I think generally within the workplace environment, not just in our municipality, but in more workplaces, there is a trend towards more complaints coming forward. People are feeling more confident and coming forward and saying, this isn't right, and I need to be able to address these concerns. And so as part of our program, our Respectful Workplace program, and as part of our due diligence, we do conduct those investigations and file reports and take appropriate action where necessary. Same thing on the grievance side. We have been in negotiations and grievances tend to increase. as part of negotiations or just prior to negotiations, because that highlights for the bargaining units some of the issues that they're experiencing with their collective agreements. So from my perspective, those are normal trends for those to be increasing and are reflective of the current workplace environment.
And Anita, when would you be
Mayor
concerned?
Davis, you're,
Sorry.
no one else is in the queue, so you're moving into your
Okay.
speaking.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up real fast. So Anita, when would it be a concern? If you see it over, what, an increase over, 3-4 years, or like, when would this, when should we ask staff or a report to come to us in camera? What would the triggering metric or statistic be?
Thanks for that follow-up question, Mayor Davis. I think perhaps a follow-up report, perhaps in camera, might be appropriate when we're at double the numbers. So maybe towards the end of the year, or even on an annual basis, we could provide some indication to council in camera of the nature of the complaints or any trends that are happening in any particular areas. So that's something that we can take under advisement for a future report.
Okay. And one last a metric that I often see in some organizations, the number of resignations. I see there's a section that addresses some of the reasons for people resigning, but I don't see a metric for the actual number of resignations, 2023 to 2024. Is that going to be included and just missed, or?
Sorry, Mayor Davis. That particular number, we participated in the Human Resources Benchmarking Network survey, an HRBN survey, and that provides data from other municipalities as well. The last time that survey was released was based on 2023 data. So it's a little bit outdated, and that organization has not received enough participants in the municipal sector in order to be able to carry on with doing that kind of comparison information. So we held off on doing the turnover information for this particular report, but it's something that we can do for the next report. It just won't have the general municipal comparator data available as part of that. We can do a year over year for the city of Brantford, though.
Yeah, I would ask that it be included in the next report, because that's an important metric if you're measuring the health of an organization. So,
sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, it's a great segue from my question. And Anita, so in the next report, you're going to have the resignations compared year to year? Would you also how often do we do exit interviews with people that leave our employ?
Through Chair Hunt to Councillor Carpenter, we send out an exit interview request to all individuals that are resigning from the organization or whose contract has expired with the organization. We get about a 50% return rate, if even that. Most organizations are around the 40 to 60% mark, so we're just in the mid-range there. It does provide us with some valuable information, and we have that data, and we can certainly provide more information around that.
So is that exit interview done by your department or by the individual department heads?
Through the chair to Councillor Carpenter, the exit interviews can be done anonymously, or they are done anonymously. They can be done through our SharePoint site, so they can complete it themselves online, or if they're not comfortable doing that online, then they can meet with one of our HR business partners and have that conversation with them, and then the HRBP would complete the form on their behalf.
I appreciate that, and thank you for that. And I know the cost of replacing an employee is $30,000 just upfront cost, just for initiating employees with the workspace. So I appreciate the report and look forward to the follow-up report. Thank you.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you very much through you to staff. We do continue to get the report regularly, which tells us about the comings and goings of our staff. Is that right, Anita? And frequency for that?
Through Chair Hunt to Councillor McCreary. That report was provided to the former HR committee. It's not something that we've included in these particular metrics reports, but it's something that we could do as we prepare these reports. We could certainly attach it as an appendix.
Yeah, when everyone's had an opportunity to speak, I'd like to add that as an amendment to this item that's before us. In fact, I'll do that now. If I could get a seconder for that, seeing Councillor Martin put his hand up, that the, Anita, how did you title that? It was more eloquent than me calling it comings and goings.
It's referred to as the full-time hires and transfers report.
Exactly what I said in the amendment. Thank you. Speaking to that, I think it's of value to us to see who comes and goes. We did have a pretty robust practice at one time of informing council of the immediate departure of folks and the hiring of replacements, whether they be permanent or interim. And I think that's a practice to which we should hark back. We do from time to time receive surprises with respect to finding out that some people in manager director roles have gone without us being aware of it. So I would also like to encourage those of you in the top tier management to ensure that the council also is informed of who goes, who comes. And not only that, but we have a lot of staff who achieve some professional standards. And it'd be nice to be told that as well when that happens, so we can celebrate those achievements. So having said that, I would hope that everybody, I can't remember how the mayor begged us to support the item that he said. I think he said, please support this, everyone. Speaking of my amendment, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other speakers, so we will vote on the amendment first. Great, Councillor, you want to see the actual wording of the amendment? Yeah, let the clerk bring that up.
The amendment is that the transfer report that Anita mentioned, that word, be included in future human resources metric reports. The amendment carries an recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelberg, Semmel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, now on the main motion as amended.
The main motion of item 722 has amended, carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelberg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
And moving on to 7.2.4, Mayor Davis. For this to be separated.
The last one I separated. So this has to do with the Healthy Kids program. And it's all about creating healthy kids in our community. So this is a program we've done now for, I think it's about at least 4 or 5 years. And every year there's a different theme. So I'd ask Aaron, I believe Aaron, or who's going to answer this question through you, Madam Chair. But I'd like to know just a quick summary. Oh, there you are, Aaron. You're hiding behind the pillar there. What generally is the purpose of this program? What is the theme for 2025? And how will we be supporting the initiatives in respect to that theme?
So through the chair, Aaron Wallace, Director of Strategic Initiatives. So the general intent of the program when it was initially brought forward was really about healthy lifestyles for children under the age of 12. So there's a lot of work done around, the importance of drinking water and limiting screen time and those types of themes. What we did last year is we put together a 4-year plan for the Healthy Kids program that really relied on 2 particular objectives. One was to increase the school readiness of children. So working, and Michelle Connor's here with me, working with the Children's Services Department, really understanding that those pivotal 0 to 4 years are what gets the child ready for school, and working with our local childcare providers to try to increase what's called the early developmental index score around children's capacity to do well in school. So that was the first theme. And what we looked at is on the provincial against the provincial average. Brantford lags behind in a couple of those metrics. So for every year for the next 4 years, we're going to look at one of those metrics where Brantford lags behind in terms of school readiness. I think this year was physical activity, and really work with community partners to get those children active and really push that score up to and beyond the provincial average. The other objective of the program moving forward from last year was this idea of helping community leaders, mentors, coaches, teachers really understand that the community is becoming much more diverse, and there's a real need and interest for music teachers and sports coaches and all of those types of folks to have the tools and the knowledge to be inclusive of children, and maybe from different cultural backgrounds or language backgrounds or other backgrounds. That maybe is something that they're seeing new on their teams or in their classes than they would have seen 5 or 10 years ago. So those two things are called Healthy Kids, Bright Futures. That's the one we're working on, the Early Developmental Index, really working on school readiness, and then Healthy Kids, All Kids, providing training and toolkits for, again, coaches and teachers to be able to include those kids in those activities and be a mentor and support for those kids.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGreer.
Sure, thank you. Excuse me. Aaron, I wonder if you could speak to how our Healthy Kids program intersects with parallel programs run by the Grand Erie Public Health Association.
Thank you, Michelle Connor, Director of Community Strategies and Family Supports. So they align quite well together, and over the actually 10 years that the Healthy Kids program has been running, they have been good partners in the work that they've been doing. Most recently, we've been working with their Heroes team, which is a team that the Public Health Department pulls together of teenagers who provide education to younger age groups. So that Heroes team is actually working in alignment with the Healthy Kids Bright Futures project. So this year they're going to be doing some training in public schools about social competence and emotional maturity and taking care of your own personal health. So that's one example that we've done, but over the years there have been a number.
Thank you for that. Pleased to see that there's some degree of intersectionality there. And it's odd how so many things that were previously federal and provincial responsibilities end up on our plates eventually. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other speakers in the queue, we will take the vote.
Item 724 carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Vanderlborg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
So we have no resolutions on tonight's agenda. There are no notices of motion. Please note that the notice of motion deadline for the council agenda is Thursday, April 24th at 9 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned.